Hey everyone, I'm Abhinav, Director of Product at Uptycs. I'm here with Josh. You want to introduce yourself, Josh?
Josh Gavant. I work in CNCF and Red Hat on platforms and delivery of applications.
Josh leads the CNCF platform working group. A lot of thought leadership, the platform maturity model, the platform's paper. As we're thinking around platforms and security, vulnerability management, compliance, especially from a developer point of view, becomes complex. How do you see platforms as a mean to solving those concerns on the security side? And what sort of trends and best practices are you seeing there?
How do platforms help solve some of those security problems? It's kind of interesting. It's kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, you get a central place to kind of enforce security policies and enforce governance. Everything can pass through a central platform, and the platform engineers can apply policies. So that's really good. On the other hand, it becomes a cross-cutting concern, and especially in some of the lower levels of maturity, security may be an afterthought. I need a database, I need a message queue, I need, observability. So security, that's the last thing I think about. So I guess in the most mature teams, security would get improved, but in earlier stages, it might suffer a little bit. So something to think about.
We talk about policies, for example, right? And one of the things we're looking into is how to kind of enable policies across the supply chain. So it's like, hey, you're not only looking at it from a reactive point of view, but proactively as you're building code, GitOps, infrastructure as code, and your CI and registry, kind of embedding policies everywhere. How do you see that playing out in your sense? Maybe even from your experience at Red Hat, or as companies are looking to satisfy those compliance needs when they're deploying clusters, for example. How does that kind of all tie in together in your frame, in your mind?
Yeah, how do we apply policies and make sure they're applied universally? You get a chance with a platform to have a central point of interaction. But actually at Red Hat in particular, what we're trying to do is give people well understood patterns. Golden path templates is a popular term these days, where especially, even forgetting about the rest of the platform, your pipelines can apply the policies that you need, early on, check for things, check for vulnerabilities. We're actually working on a trusted application pipeline, which is very much Tecton, but with batteries included already, with the standard set of SigStore and SBOMs and all that good stuff that you need. Yeah, I don't like to think that platforms are limited to pipelines, but that's the place where a lot of code policies could go.
Sure. One last point is that, I feel like security and even platforms are moving from kind of more just, hey, here's the data, here's the visualizations, to operationalizations and workflows. So even things like vulnerability management it's not just about looking at the CVEs, it's really about how do I operationalize it from a developer self-service point of view? How do I look at, tomorrow, if I introduce a new image layer and I'm building a new application, how do I put that as part of my software development lifecycle? And I think that's where I feel we're going to see a big convergence around platforms and security, because they all sort of feed into the SDLC, which is kind of the key to solving everything, right? Especially as Gardner said it, 85% of organizations are going to move to a dev self-service model.
CVEs and vulnerability. I remember working at a company, and basically, every new version of Spring would have, some vulnerability which we needed to get approved, and we had no idea. And so it would just get thrown back to the developer, and they say, "Is this okay?" And the developer doesn't know. So with the platform as a product mentality, where I think that's going to help a lot. Like, we can no longer say to a developer, "It's broken, you go fix it." Actually, you as a platform engineer, what can you do to make the job of the developer easier? So adopting that mentality will hopefully affect our developers' security as well, give them that information.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Josh, and
Yeah, thank
appreciate
you,
your
Abhinav.
insights.
Always good to talk with you.